I'm so glad you're back. Are you ready to go over the Bible knowledge from last week? This was the Bible knowledge, or this is the Bible knowledge worksheet. There's a link below the video for this worksheet. And it's very simple. It is circle the 9 correct fruit that Paul said we should grow. Remember, you were supposed to know the fruits of the Spirit? So the fruit of the Spirit is, and circle each one of those, and then it says, against such things there is no law. Galatians 5, verses 22 and 23. So go ahead and pause the video, and if you have the printout, go ahead and circle those in front of you. If you don't have the printout, go ahead and pull the Google Doc up and list the ones, write them down, or ask your mom to write them down as you call out the ones that are correct. And then we'll go over that on the screen here. On the worksheet, there are 9 correct fruits of the Spirit. So if you could pause the video and circle the 9 correct fruits of the Spirit. If you don't have the piece of paper, just read them out or write them down. When you're done, go ahead and restart the video. The first fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, not faithlessness, but faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. How'd you do? There's also a link below the video for some coloring pages that you can print out if your parents have a printer. And this is optional, but it covers the top. These are coloring pages on the topic for our lesson today. So the lesson today, we're going back to our series on if you plan on becoming a Christian someday, you should know that Christians use the Bible as a guide for worship. So we've spent some time talking the last few weeks about some of the things we do in worship. The first one that we discussed was that we spend time learning during worship. We listen to the sermon. And then the one that we studied the last time was we spend time in prayer, right? This time we're going to move on to another thing that we do during worship. Can you think of some other things we do? Yeah, we do communion. We give money, yeah, and we sing. We do a lot of singing during worship. Is it okay to sing during worship? Well, how do we know if it's okay? We check the Bible, right? Okay. So I hope that one day each of you will become Christians. And as we study this today, I hope that it'll help you to form a good habit of participating in the singing during the worship. We all need to start to learn good habits, and this is just one. So the first thing, and you know what we need to do, we need to check the Bible. So let's go to the book of Ephesians, chapter 5. Where are we going to find the book of Ephesians in the Bible? Is it going to be in the Old Testament or the New Testament? Well, the big hint, I'm talking about New Testament worship. So we would expect to find this in the New Testament. So we're going to go to the New Testament. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, the letters to the Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, and Ephesians. Here's a big hint. You saw this last time. There's a way to remember where to find Ephesians. Do you remember what it is? Go eat popcorn. Go eat popcorn. Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians. The E for eat stands for Ephesians. So if you can find Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, any of those four, it's easy to find the rest. Go eat popcorn. So we're going to Ephesians chapter 5, verse 15. Go ahead and read it if you're there before me. So, be very careful how you live. Do not live like people who aren't wise. Live like people who are wise. Make the most of every opportunity. The days are evil. So don't be foolish. What does that mean, the days are evil? It means you can fill the days with evil if you choose to. But then it goes on in verse 17. So don't be foolish. Instead, understand what the Lord wants. Don't fill yourself up with wine. Getting drunk will lead to wild living. Instead, be filled with the Holy Spirit. Speak to each other with psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. Sing and make music in your heart to the Lord. Always give thanks to God the Father for everything. Give thanks to him in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Follow the lead of one another because you respect Christ. Okay, so how are we to sing according to this verse? We are to, how are we to speak to each other according to this verse? It says, speak to each other with psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. And then it says, sing and make music, how? In your heart to the Lord. So that's good to do. Sing and make music. All right. Let's go ahead and go to the book of Acts. You know where that is. And we're going to start chapter 16, verse 23. Can you get there? Go ahead and get there before I do. And read it, and then restart the tape. Okay, here we go. Verse 23. They were thrown into prison, and the jailer was commanded to guard them carefully. This was Paul and Silas. Verse 24. When he received these orders, he put them in the inner cell and fastened their feet in the stocks. And then verse 25. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the other prisoners were listening to them. So are they at worship service? No, they're not at worship service, but they are worshiping God in prayer and song, right? And the other prisoners were listening to them. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 15. Go ahead and turn there and read this out loud and then restart the video. Verse 15. So what shall I do? I will pray with my spirit, but I will also pray with my understanding. I will sing with my spirit, but I will also sing with my understanding. What is he talking about there? What is he talking about? This is chapter 14 of 1 Corinthians. When is he saying he will do that? Well, he's talking in the previous verse about when they're coming together to worship. Go ahead and go down to verse 26 of that same chapter, and let's read what it has to say there. Are you ready? My translation reads, "What then shall we say, brothers and sisters? When you come together, each of you has a hymn, or a word of instruction, a revelation." And then later it says, everything must be done so that the church may be built up. What does it mean to be built up? When you build up a church, what does that mean? It doesn't mean brick by brick by brick by brick. It means to grow, to be encouraged, and to learn. That's how you're building up the people in the church. Because the people make the church. So each of you should have a hymn or a word of instruction. Let's go ahead and go. Here we go to another verse. Are you ready? Colossians chapter 3, verse 16. Colossians chapter 3, verse 16. Get there before I do. And go eat popcorn for Colossians. And ready? Let the message of Christ dwell among you richly as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom through psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. All right. So what are we doing to each other as we sing psalms, hymns, and songs? It says, teach and admonish one another. Teach and admonish one another. We know what teach means. What does admonish mean? Admonish means explain what not to do. Point out when someone is doing something in error. That's what admonish means. So teach to do this, but admonish not to do that. Okay? So far there's a lot of singing that goes on when the church comes together, right? Let's go to Hebrews chapter 2, verse 12. Hebrews chapter 2, verse 12. Go ahead and get there before I do and read it. Verse 12. I will declare your name to my brothers and sisters. In the assembly, I will sing your praises. What's that? Where's the assembly? When the church assembles, when the people, the Christians come together, I will sing your praises. So that's when we come together. And that's what we should do that when we come together. So Christians sing praises during the assembly. Okay, so here's my question. How can you sing? How can you sing along? Can you sing? Do you know how? Just sing. And it doesn't really give us how to sing. It doesn't say all the women have to sing high and all the women have to sing low. It says to sing, okay? It doesn't say, there can be lots of different ways that we sing. There can be lots of different songs that we sing because it doesn't point those out. But we should sing along. It does mention being orderly, right? So we don't want to all be singing different songs because it mentions previously we read to be orderly. Everything should be done orderly. So what is it when we have different lines of notes in a song? Why do we have different lines of notes? There's not just one note for every word. Why is that? Let's look at this song. It's called Amazing Grace. It's a song from our songbooks. And if we look here, there are, for the word Amazing Grace, just for the letter A, if you look above the letter A, there are two notes stacked on top of each other. There's the note on top, and then there's the notes under the notes on top. And then down below, there's a whole nother staff, a whole nother set of lines, and there's a note on the bottom, and then there are notes above the notes on the bottom. Well, I don't know who came up with this. It just developed over time, but there are different parts. It's called 4 parts that we can sing. So lots of times when you're looking at this, the women will sing on the higher notes and the men will sing on the lower notes. Where do the kids sing? Depends on your voice. If you're less than 10 years old, you're probably going to have a higher voice and you can sing on the higher notes. Or if you have a lower voice, you can sing on the lower notes. Looking again at this song, the notes on the top are for the people who have the highest voices. they sing those notes, and that is called soprano. Then the notes below the notes on the top, that's for the second highest voices, and that is called the alto voice. Below that, on the bottom staff, on the bottom set of lines, the notes above the notes on the bottom, shown here in orange, those are for the people that don't have the deepest voice, but still a deep voice, and that is called the tenor voice. And then at the very bottom, shown here in blue, these notes are for the deepest voice or the lowest voice, and those voices are called the bass voice. So I got a few volunteers to sing different parts of a song for you. And I'm going to put the words to the song up, and point out what part is being sung by each person. Okay? So let's do that so you can hear the different parts of the song. You might recognize this song. A lot of the songbooks have it as number 728B. And the name of the song is Our God, He is Alive. This is a very good song to show parts. And that's because the chorus is separated out into parts. So it starts off with the deeper voice singing, there is a God, and then the higher voices repeat that, there is a God. And that goes back and forth for a little bit. So you'll notice when our volunteers are singing, sometimes they're not singing anything because it's not their turn to sing their part. These are photos of pitch pipes. Some people like to use them to help them hit the right note when they are singing, especially during practice. They'll blow on them. Now, some pitch pipes look like these. They're little cookie shapes. And other pitch pipes are digital or electronic. You don't have to use a pitch pipe when you lead song, and we won't be doing that in class. But a few of our volunteers on this video did use a pitch pipe, and see if you can tell which ones. One of them is kind of tricky. Camille is our first volunteer, and she's singing the soprano part.
There is beyond the azure blue a God concealed from human sight. He tinted skies with heavenly hue and framed the worlds with His great might. There is a God, He is alive, in Him we live, and we serve by from the star God, created man. He is our God, the great I am.
The second part, the alto part, is being sung by Emily.
There is beyond the azure blue a God concealed from human sight. He tinted skies with heavenly hue and framed the worlds with His great might. There is a God, He is alive, in Him we live, and we survive from dust our God, created man. He is our God, the great I am, the great I am.
Garrett volunteered to sing the tenor part, which is on the bottom staff or set of lines.
There is beyond the azure blue a God concealed from human sight. He tinted skies with heavenly hue and framed the worlds with his great might. There is a God, he is alive. In him we live and we survive. From dust our God created man. He is our God, the great I am.
The bass part is being sung by Trace.
There is beyond the azure blue a God concealed from human sight. He tinted skies with heavenly hue and framed the world with his great might. There is a God, he is alive. In him we live and we survive. From dust our God created man. He is our God, the great I am.
Did you notice Camille was using a pitch pipe and Garrett was using a pitch pipe? His was electronic or digital. So what do you think? Which part would you sing? The soprano, which is the highest, the alto, the tenor, or the bass? If you think you know which part you probably sing, go ahead and pause the video and then back it up and sing along with one of those 4 parts. Well, I attempted to take all those videos and put them together. I worked a really long time at it, but I just couldn't get them to match because everybody had recorded those at a different time, so their timing was just a little bit off from each other. And when I put it together, it sounded pretty funny, actually. So it defeated the purpose of you hearing all of the pieces and parts together. So I just didn't include it in this lesson. And we practice singing new songs that we might not normally sing. And also, that's a time when some of the young boys get to practice song leading because that takes a little bit of guts, right? A little bit of bravery to get up in front of people and lead a song. So sometimes it's easier to do that if you've practiced. So we also let the boys practice that. Now, it's not our usual worship time. It's we're just getting together to sing. So have you ever led a song? Do you know how to lead a song? It would be a good thing to practice at home. Should you sing at home? Yeah, you should sing at home. And I have a worksheet here, a little step-by-step worksheet that explains how to lead a song so that people can follow you. So if I just get up and belt out a song and you don't have the words in front of you and you've never heard the song and I sing it any way I feel like singing it, it would be hard for you to follow, right? So part of doing things in an orderly way is making sure that if someone is going to lead a song, that they can lead it in a way that we can follow. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? So let's look at this together, and this is different ways that you can lead a song from the songbooks that we have, because we have several songbooks in the pew, and then sometimes they project the song onto the screen at the front of the building. In this lesson, we're going to learn a little bit about leading song. Now, we need boys to lead song during worship services, and we need girls to learn how to lead song for ladies' days and for the classes that they teach. So when you lead song for somebody else, it's really helpful for you to keep time, and there's hand motions that people have come up with to help you keep time, and we're going to talk about those a little bit. You might have noticed that a couple of our volunteers in their videos did keep time. So we're going to watch Camille, since she did keep time and she did call out the name of the song and the song number before she started to sing her part.
Please turn to number 728B, 728B. We'll sing the first verse only. There is beyond the azure blue a God concealed from human sight. The song that Camille was leading had 4 quarter notes per measure, so she was using a 4/4 motion as she led that song. Before we explain the time-keeping motions, I need to explain what a measure is. When you have a musical notes on a staff, those 5 lines, you'll see vertical lines, and inside the vertical lines will be notes. The measure is just basically that. It's a measurement of your music, and it's always an equal amount. And the time signature will tell you how many notes are inside each measure. Let's look at a song and the time signature. The time signature on a song tells you how many beats in a measure. So the measures are the lines, okay? And then there's notes in between. So if it's a 4/4 time signature, that means there's 4 beats in that measure. So you think to yourself, 1, 2, 3, 4. But that's kind of hard to lead somebody in song that way. So tell me, what is a shape that has 4 sides? Just call it out. A square. So I could lead a song by going 1, 2, 3, 4. A, B, C, D. I could do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. If it's a 4/4 time signature. But that's sometimes a harder way to do it. Most people who lead song don't make a square. They make an L twice. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's a really easy way to lead a 4/4 time signature. Okay, let's look at this other one. What kind of time signature is that? Well, that's a 3/4, which means it's 3 quarter notes in between the measures. 1, 2, 3. So let's think about that. 1, 2, 3. Can you think of any shapes that have 3 sides? You can. A triangle, right? So with a 4/4, we could do a rectangle. Or 3 L's. What could we do with a 3/3? A triangle. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. A, B, C. Do you get it? Okay. It's pretty easy to mess up when you are leading song and to have your hand motions kind of out of kilter. So one thing that is helpful is whenever you see those measure lines that we pointed out earlier, and you're moving your arms up and down in the shape of an L or a triangle, remember that you always bring your arm back up and down whenever you come to a measure. So that way, if you mess up and you get off track, the measure lines help you to get back onto track.
Do you get it? Okay. And then there's the other one that is a 2-2. And that's just start your hand at the top and go down and then up. And it goes like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, A, B, A, B. That's just a very, very quick introduction. Maybe you can spend a little bit of time looking through your songbook, if you have one at home, or any songbook, and look at the different time signatures. Do that with your mom so you can kind of get a feel for the different time signatures.
I'm including a few time signatures here. This is a 3/4, which means there are 3 quarter notes. This is a 4/4, 4 quarter notes per measure. Then we have 3/8, which is 3/8 notes. 8th notes are pretty quick. So this is 3/8 notes per measure. Then we have 6/8 notes per measure. That's even a quicker beat or a faster beat. Oh my, look, 8/8 notes. That is very quick. And then we have 9/8 notes, which is even quicker, and 12/8 notes. Look how many 8th notes there are in a row. The last part of this lesson is your Bible knowledge. Now, it's another worship notes. So if you take this to your worship and fill it out as best you can. But once again, I made it a little different this time because this time we're talking about singing. So let's look at that on the screen. Once again, we have the My Worship Notes worksheet for you that you can print out from the Google Doc below the video screen. And this one is a little different again because today we're focusing on singing. I'd like you to once again choose Sunday, Wednesday, or morning or evening, and then look at all these ovals. When you sing the songs, they usually have song numbers, so I'd like you to write the name or the numbers of the songs in those ovals. And then I would like you to write down the name of your favorite song that you sang during the worship services. Also, I have a place on here for you to draw a picture of the favorite song that you sang today. It can be a stick drawing. And then after that, just try to fill out the other pieces and parts of the worship notes as best you can. And once again, I would really like to see a photo of your worship notes.
I hope this was fun for you, and I hope you learned a little bit more about what we do during worship and different ways that we can do that. So if we can end in a word of prayer, that would be wonderful. Let's go ahead and bow. Dear precious God, thank you for this day. Thank you that we can go to your word, the Bible, and find out how to worship you the way that you would have us to do that. Thank you that we can also learn from your word together on the internet when we can't meet together in person. Please be with each of the kids who have tuned in and be with their families. And we ask all of this in Jesus' holy and precious name. Amen. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you at the next lesson. Bye. As something to do after the Bible lesson, I thought it would be interesting to talk about how our songbooks are a little different than other songbooks you see. And one of the reasons that they are so different is that instead of just regular notes, oval shaped, our songbooks usually have shape notes. And why do they have shape notes? They have triangles and ovals and rectangles. Well, there's a very good reason for that. Most of our songbooks are written for people who sing a cappella. And a cappella means, actually literally means in the manner of the church. So, and that's because originally, way back, most churches, all churches, sang without musical instruments. So it was the way that it means the way the church sings. That's what the word a cappella means. And the shape notes are like a musical code. Instead of using a staff with notes that go higher and lower on the scale, each shape was a different note. So you could look at the shape and know what note to sing. Now, most people use the staff, but as kind of a throwback to when this was the way that people who sang a cappella read notes or read music, our music books, our songbooks, have a staff, and then the regular notes all have a shape note shape instead of just an oval. It's just an interesting history that goes along with the way the church sings or the a cappella music. You also might find it interesting that each shape has its own name, and the names are do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. There's an old movie that includes a song about these shape notes. It's called The Sound of Music. It might actually be your grandmother's favorite movie. You should ask her. I know it was my mom's favorite movie, and I remember learning this song in school when we were in music class. The song goes something like this. Do, a deer, a female deer, re, a drop of golden sun, me, a name I call myself, fa, a long, long way to run, so, a needle pulling thread, la, a note to follow, so, tea, a drink with jam and bread, that will bring us back to do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, so, do.